Welcome to Season 2 of Dovewhether. The government is trying its hardest to deport us, erase us, and disempower us. But that won't stop us. We're here, we're queer. And we're podcasting. David Lynch has left us, but his spirit is still with us. Lynch gave us 10 feature films, a litany of songs, and 3 TV shows, including the groundbreaking Twin Peaks, which aired 3 seasons. Anyone who calls Twin Peaks The Return a movie doesn't know what they're talking about. But we're not here today to talk about Twin Peaks. No, we're here to talk about Inland Empire, Lynch's 2006 movie starring Laura Dern and Justin Theroux. The movie is 3 hours long. This podcast episode will be much shorter.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, you can look at your phone and see how long it actually is. Put on your rabbit head and join us in the Inland Empire. But in reality, we're here, we're queer, and
some of you motherfuckers ain't getting used to it.
Yeah, and my podcast co-host AP here, he's looking pretty dressed up over here.
Yeah. I am dressed as the straightest FBI agent left in Quantico, and I am looking directly into the eyes of my co-host, Marcy, dressed as the least stonery queer person in Chicago.
Yeah, I'm wearing orange and blue, representing Illini.
You're like wearing like a rug that just fell over you and molded into a jacket.
Yeah, I'm wearing this rainbow cardigan that my girlfriend and I found at a holiday market. I've been kind of wearing it to death since I got it because I get so many compliments on it. It's very cozy.
Great to like wipe your shoes on.
I'm wearing the blue sweatpants that my girlfriend got me. Feeling pretty good. Tell us more about your tie you got there.
So this is actually not a tie. It's a little gift. It's a bandana, actually.
Ooh.
But I wanted to make sure that I look as Pacific Northwest as possible because I am out of the Portland office of the FBI.
Yeah.
Ironic, right? They send me, the straightest FBI agent, to the gayest, or maybe one of the gayest, government offices in Portland. Definitely one of the most melanin deficient FBI offices, but I'm here.
Yeah, well, usually I wouldn't be glad to have a member of the FBI here, but I'm glad to have you here. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, I heard of the. Well, I just got fired, like all the DEI stuff.
Yeah,
but I heard you were hiring. So
yeah, we are hiring here, and I'm a little bit scared about an FBI agent infiltrating the podcast. Like, are you even an ex-FBI agent? Like, what if you're really still on the payroll and it's all part of your story?
No, I was trying to resolve a murder just in this small town, but regulations came in. Oh, you can't be gay anymore in the FBI.
So now you are gay.
Oh, well, I mean, who asked?
I guess if the straightest FBI agent is gay, then that just means every FBI agent is gay. So sounds like we need to get rid of the entire institution if we're getting rid of all the gay people in it.
Now I am in a bind. Yeah. Now I am both straight and gay. I'm a man. I'm stuck in this kind of middle place, in this external place. It's almost as if I'm defending an inland empire.
Whoa. We got Schrodinger's AP over here. And yes, we are talking about Inland Empire, David Lynch, R.I.P. We're pouring one out for David. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about this movie with you, especially because we just watched the movie for the first time in the last few days. And I have seen over half of David Lynch's movies. I'm a big Twin Peaks fan. I know that you don't have as much experience.
I like Twin Peaks too, if you know what I mean, though. If you know what I mean, though.
You like the restaurant Twin Peaks?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Great Caesar salad.
The Hooters competition. Yeah, but which do you like more, Twin Peaks or Hooters?
When I'm looking for wings, Hooters. When I'm looking for a good time, Twin Peaks.
That makes sense. But how much Lynch experience do you have before this?
I have way less than I think a lot of people. A lot of people listening too. I need David Lynch as like this like creative, this unabashed like auteur. Maybe I don't think he would describe himself that way. That is kind of like the location he held in kind of popular narrative, like culture, and that's kind of how I knew him. I watched Eraserhead and like one or two other of his movies. I never watched Twin Peaks, even though that like you've like drunkenly like shoved me to the ground multiple times, saying if you don't watch this show, we can't be friends. But other than that, no. I kind of always just known it as like the guy that people who read Edgar Allan Poe as kids grew up into really liking as a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel
goths, I guess. I guess I'm talking about goths.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I heard about Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive, and I watched those when I was younger. I really liked both of them. And then I started watching Twin Peaks, and I was immediately entranced by it. I loved the pilot. I loved that everyone was crying in it. And it was just a show that like I was completely drawn into. Season 2, there were some stumbles, but also the stumbles are really interesting. So
what I hear is that season 2, there was like a lot of like studio pressure. Which is like, I mean, always, right? Always.
Yeah. I mean, it's like multiple things at the same time where Lynch is getting a lot of pressure to like solve the murder of Laura Palmer, but then like what happens after that murder is solved, and like when creative differences happen and David Lynch leaves the show, like is Twin Peaks still Twin Peaks without Lynch? Well, we got to see. The season 2 ends really well though. The finale is great, and I'm a big fan of Fire Walk with Me. And in 2017, when Twin Peaks: The Return, a TV show, came out, I was watching every week, and that was quite the experience. And I'm currently rewatching Twin Peaks with some dear friends, and I'm really looking forward to when we get to Twin Peaks: The Return.
I remember that time where like The Return came along. I was at the tail end of my like college years, and I was way more like the movies and show that were watching were way all over the place. But one like sinew that like connects what I was doing at the time and Twin Peaks, and therefore David Lynch, is Justin Theroux. I was slamming Leftover season 3, the final season, when that was coming out. So David Lynch cast a huge shadow, and he's like sad about casting that huge shadow because he probably wants you to like cast your own.
Yeah, Leftovers was also the first thing that I think I watched Justin Theroux, and I wasn't really aware of the whole romance with Jennifer Aniston. I think that's like what a lot of people knew him from.
Or Zoolander.
I guess I did see Zoolander, but I didn't really notice Theroux in it. I watched Zoolander like in
talk about a man that stands tall.
I watched Zoolander in drama class in high school, and the drama teacher was like, "This is the best movie ever." But anyway, so Theroux, of course, a lot of people like talking about how big his dick is. There's that scene in Leftovers where like he's wearing sweatpants and you can kind of see the outline of it.
Literally like 1-to-1 height and like cock size.
But yeah, so when Theroux showed up in Inland Empire, I was like, okay, cool. I'm glad I get to see a little bit more.
Shows up for a total of like 20 minutes.
I think it's a little bit more than that, but yeah, like he definitely is not he's mostly in the first hour. Yeah, Inland Empire, So this is, like we said in the intro, a 3-hour movie. I was aware of this movie for a long time. I'm a big fan of Laura Dern. I love Enlightened, which is the HBO show she starred in, created by Mike White, creator of
White Lotus,
and one of the stars of Survivor, David versus Goliath. So like I wanted to watch Inland Empire for a long time. I had friends on Twitter who were like, "Yeah, this movie is awesome," and I knew that like a lot of people at the time were like, "What the fuck is this?" So I kind of wanted to wait for the right time to watch it. And then when David Lynch died, I was like, okay, I finally need to watch Inland Empire.
Yeah. And you see, I love Laura Dern because I love her as a purple-haired rebel leader in Star Wars. We are not the same.
Look, I enjoyed her in her Star Wars appearance, but that would not be my top 10 Laura Derns.
We both do share that love for Laura Dern. She seems like I've never been disappointed seeing her in anything, and she just seems like a serious actor that is not an asshole, which I feel like is always a blessing.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's. I rewatched Jurassic Park recently. She's really good in that. I remember she was a real scene stealer in Marriage Story.
I've never seen a Marriage Story purely because I'm like, I don't need that. I don't need that type of story in my life. I don't. No, I'm good.
Yeah, you don't need Adam Driver punching a wall.
I don't.
Yeah.
I need him punching me.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you really asked him nicely, he would do it. Yeah, now I'm just remembering. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the scenes in Girls like verged on domestic abuse with him. So yeah,
I never watched Girls, so like I don't know. That is. Let's just say that is your culture.
It is my culture, yes, and I'm proud of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Lena Dunham.
Yeah, I've always said you're so proud of your culture.
Very proud to be in the same demographic as Lena Dunham. Yeah.
Hey, Allison Williams is, I'm jealous of that. That's a deep bench you got over there, and you got Allison Williams, and I'm worse for it.
Yeah, Allison Williams, and star of Get Out and that Peter Pan production that they put on TV that was.
And Megan, do you forgetting Megan?
I haven't seen Megan yet, but I saw that they released like the kind of plot teaser for the sequel to Megan, and it seems like they're going for like a Terminator 2 thing where there's like a new robot, and then like they have to like bring back Megan in order to fight it. So that sounds pretty fun.
That's right. I Megan.
Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty cool if they brought Will Smith in for Megan, and like, and I'm sure they will like make a reference to the slap. I think wasn't Will Smith like back at the Grammys, and people were like, "Oh, they're bringing back Will Smith to award shows. What's gonna happen?"
Oh, talk about something I didn't give a single fuck about. Like, the way that people. Oh. No, I'm good.
I would say I was more invested in this year's Grammys than normal because I'm invested in like Doechii and Chappell Rowan and Charlie XCX. So
and they won big.
Yeah, they all won. Charlie didn't win at the ceremony, but she did win three Grammys outside of it.
And I wouldn't use a Grammy for a doorstop.
I feel like the Grammys is the type of thing that people denigrate if they don't have one, but then if they win one, they're like, "Oh, I'm so glad I got one." So
Are you saying I'm gonna eat crow in the future?
Maybe if you win a Grammy, yeah. I mean, maybe you'll get a Grammy for your DJing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the good people of Dovewhether don't know about that, but DJing means something else. It means dislocated joints. They make a very rhythmic sound.
Yeah. Yeah. Your joints are award worthy. You know. I can start to see like they're doing the sob story on TV where like you're talking about what happened last year, and you're like, yeah, if my joints can survive that, I know I can make art with them.
yeah, because I'm a tough bitch. Because art is pain and I'm suffering.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I'll say this about the Grammys. I've kind of enjoyed watching some of the online discourse afterwards where no matter who wins Album of the Year, people will get mad. And this time, Beyonce finally won Album of the Year, but people found a way to get mad at her. Not because she's a billionaire, no, but because she finally won for a country album that people don't like, or at least they say they don't like until further questioning reveals they didn't actually listen to the album.
I listened to the album a couple of times, and I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I just nothing connected with me. So.
Yeah, I like the album. Like, sure, I like Lemonade and Renaissance more, but I feel like the way that some people are like, oh, like Beyonce should have won for these albums, but she shouldn't have won for this album. Like you're pulling hairs here, and a lot of these people are Billie Eilish fans who are like, how did she win nothing? This was their best album, and I'm like, Billie Eilish has won plenty of Grammys. Honestly,
From the
it's all
start.
yeah, it's
From the start,
it's all
there was a
pretty
massive push to get that artist up into the stratosphere.
yeah. So it's all fun to watch.
Up there with Laura Dern, and I'm like, sister, you got years on you. All right, Laura Dern though, like she deserves more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and before we get back to Laura Dern, you know, it was hilarious seeing Drake get, you know, fucking dounced again with Kendrick winning so many Grammys for Not Like Us. And of course, by the time you listener are listening to this, Kendrick's Super Bowl performance has happened. So yeah, you know, it's great to see him go on the victory lap.
I feel like I was doing laps trying to figure out what I liked about Inland Empire.
Yeah, I think I like the movie more than you, but this is not one of my favorite Lynch movies. I do think this is a movie that like challenged me, and I liked being challenged. So it was a movie because it's like 3 hours long. You know, I think the first hour, okay, it starts out weird, but then it gets a little bit more straightforward.
I feel like it starts out straight and then it gets weird.
Well, I do think, you know, the part where you're like looking at the rabbits and there's a woman crying and the first 5 minutes.
That's because I grew up in Eastern Europe. That's like normal TV for me.
Yeah, you're used to like them blurring out the two first characters you see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the lens was dirty. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like after that it does get pretty straightforward. You know, you're seeing Laura Dern. She's an actress in the movie. Justin Theroux plays an actor. They're co-stars in this movie. And, you know, as it goes on, we have one of your favorite actors as the director.
Yeah. Jeremy Irons shows up. A man who I am never happy to see. So, not, you know, I mean, if you're queer and you're around the Obergefell, decision way back when. You would remember some comments you made, but whatever.
I feel
there's a queen in this movie.
Yeah,
and she's in it for like at least 2 hours and 47 minutes. Like she is the only thing on camera.
Laura Dern, I think, she really carries this movie. I think without her, this movie would be much worse.
Well, you just have some rabbits and that's it.
Yeah.
Like there would be literally nothing else.
I don't think many other actresses could carry the movie the way that she does. I think her face is so expressive.
Oh my, like middle distance perplexed Laura Dern is in this movie. That is the movie.
Yeah, I think there definitely are parallels between her performance in this and her performance in Enlightened. Because in Enlightened, she is often angry or, like you say, perplexed. And the camera like really holds on her and makes sure that, you know, you see her tears. You see her trembling lip. I like in Inland Empire, what you see with eyes, like both her eyes and Justin Theroux's eyes, you kind of see like the reflection in their eyes. You see like something sparkling in their eyes, and it really allows
even when she is like bleeding out on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
bleeding out on the sidewalk. Laura Dern, one of the best Laura Derns to be there.
And there are so many Laura Derns in this movie. Yeah, I mean, look, you know, there's sexy as hell Laura Dern, but that's all the Laura Derns. Let's be real.
There's striations, you know, like there are some outfits in this movie that Laura Dern is like strutting where I'm like, girl, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like this isn't Disneyland. This isn't like a hot summer day. You don't gotta wear that. Like why are you wearing that?
Yeah, and part of it is that she's wearing some outfits for the movie, and yeah, let's just blame Jeremy Irons. He's probably
the real director of this movie.
Yeah, he's probably being an auteur, being like, okay, Laura Dern's character, we need you to wear this outfit. I don't care what my costume coordinator said. We have to do it like this.
I mean, she did wear everything great. Like there was one specific like scene where she's like wearing this sundress. It's like with a flower print, and I don't like the dress. I also don't like what Justin Theroux's wearing. He's like wearing like an antebellum, like he's about to call me boy, a tan suit. But like she looks great in it. Literally every outfit she looks great in. Even some like capris and like a red magenta top. Like she looks great in everything.
Yeah. One of the first scenes you see her in is the scene where this old Polish woman comes to her door, played by Grace Zabriskie, who played Laura Palmer's mom, Sarah Palmer, in Twin Peaks. And I love her. Like, she is so good at just like having extremely strange facial expressions. And the first time you see her in the movie, it's kind of like this wide shot and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And I think David Lynch like really, he's like, I don't care what the norm is. Like, we're gonna use these wide lenses, like, these fucking weird angles, and you're gonna get these extreme close-ups and
some like distortion, almost like not exactly a fisheye lens, but like that kind of distortion that comes with that. Like a lot of this movie, and this is the first movie he ever shot on digital. And he actually like fell in love with like the digital like format for recording, and because it like provides a lot of freedom in it, and like you see it throughout all of this, with all of those angles, weird like handheld stuff. It does happen to like slide into like a skating montage done by a couple of fellas out in the skate park, but there's something endearing about that. There's something super mid 2000s about that.
Yeah, I think one thing I was really appreciating in this movie was just, like you said, kind of just like seeing David Lynch try different things. It does, there's a new Steven Soderbergh album. There's a new Steven Soderbergh movie out this month, and he's also someone who really likes digital filmmaking, partially because it makes it really easy to edit. And I really appreciate directors who can kind of go against like the grain of like what you think, a big auteur will do, but still do it in a way that's interesting enough that it still feels like it's their own thing. Because I know that a lot of like film snobs are like, oh, everyone's doing it on digital this day, bring back film. And that's why,
I mean, we watched another 3 hour. Yeah, The Brutalist, whose like main thing is that it was shot in the fucking 70 millimeter or whatever.
Yeah.
And when I watched it with you at like the music box, like, I don't know, I saw the artifacting of film, but it didn't add anything to it.
I think it added some things for me. I think, I think that the imagery in that movie and kind of like a lot of the shots where you're just kind of like seeing something from very far away, I did like that aspect of it. The thing I'll say about The Brutalist is that I appreciated that movie had an intermission. I think that Inland Empire could have benefited from an intermission. I think that like cutting the film in kind of two halves where they, it's like a part one and a part two, that helped with The Brutalist, where you kind of got to consume the first part, and then the second half was different tonally, but even if you didn't like where that went, you could still be like, okay, I really like the first half. Second half, there were aspects of it I liked.
Yeah.
With Inland Empire, you can kind of divide it into like first, third, second, third. But I think one of the things I did struggle with a bit is that like after a while, you're just kind of like waiting for something to grasp onto. And because like it starts getting really weird like an hour into it. And I think that if there was like some sort of intermission, it would make it feel easier to digest.
Did you? Is that kind of the challenging thing that you mentioned? Like it almost tells you no, you have to stick here. Like this is like the anti-neurodivergent film, right? Like it requires you to be like, you gotta like sit here and just wait and wait. And I know how you watch movies. You watch them with one screen. Like you don't even have your phone out, right? So
correct, yeah.
So like you're like drilled in 100%. And even at moments you get bored?
Yeah, I think I mean, on the one hand, I do want to see this in the movie theater, and the Music Box. It does appear they're going to do like a Lynch retrospective in April. I don't know if I'll get to watch this movie in the theater. Then there are other Lynch movies I haven't seen that I will prioritize, like Wild at Heart. I think like there are 3-hour movies that I have watched in my home that I have found easier to digest. I think Drive My Car was around 3 hours, and I watched that at home.
I refuse to watch that movie because of the length. I might hit it. I don't know, but like I just couldn't imagine it would like capture me.
I liked that movie more than both The Brutalist and Inland Empire, so I would recommend it. And it also kind of operates as two halves, so yeah, and I think
driving the car and then not driving the car.
A little bit, yeah.
Nice. Oh, I don't gotta watch them.
But yeah, I also was thinking about how Twin Peaks, I think, is my favorite thing that Lynch has made. If you catch me on a different day, maybe I'll say Blue Velvet. But I think one thing that really helps Twin Peaks is its episodic nature. Like the first episode is 90 minutes, but then most of the episodes are 45 minutes. The season 3 episodes, they end up being a little bit longer because on streaming they had more freedom. But because it's episodic, it's more digestible, and then you get attached to the characters. And so when weird shit happens, you still have the characters to return to. Of course, with this movie, I was attached to Laura Dern, so I was attached to like her journey. But yeah, I think like especially because for part of the movie, I was trying to figure out like, okay, what's going on? Like, which parts of this is it like her? Which parts is like the character in the movie within the movie? Has she time traveled back to 100 years ago, like trying to just connect everything, trying to figure out temporally.
And like, is there a necessity to like divide any of that? Like to know this is the movie within the movie, this is just the quote unquote real characters within the movie. This is like I don't know, this is when I was living with my Polish ex-mobster husband out in the suburbs, Laura Dern. Like, is there a necessity to divide it?
I don't think necessarily. And I was kind of like trying to tell my brain, like, okay, you don't actually have to like solve this. And I know that like Lynch movies in general, like you can like try to like theorize about what they mean, but I think they often benefit from when you just let them wash over you. I watched Mulholland Drive with some friends a few years ago at the Music Box, and one of my friends was like, I think I got it. And I was basically trying to say like, you don't have to like figure out what everything means. Like a lot of times it is about like, how does this make you feel? Yeah, and ultimately I do like this movie, but I do wish it made me feel a bit more.
So that kind of anecdote about like two friends walking out of a movie, that's from the like literally 6 hours of interviews I've seen about David Lynch, with David Lynch in it. That's what he wants.
Yeah,
that's like truly what he wants out of his audience, for people to talk, for people to have like their own interpretation. And especially for you not to like hound him to like explain it to you.
Yeah.
I I like the movie because I like when creative people take big swings. I always love that. I would way prefer that than like some middle of the road bullshit. Literally, if John Krasinski could never. You could give John Krasinski 1,000,000 years to make one David Lynch movie. Nah.
Yeah.
You give David Lynch half an hour, he will make If just better.
Yeah, he would make like things creepy in a way that like was actually interesting instead of John Krasinski making it creepy accidentally.
Yeah. And I was bored in big chunks of this movie. Not bored in the sense that like I wanted to turn it off. As much as like, brother, I know you're not gonna tell me, like, you're not gonna flop a big theme on my face. So like, or like a fairly like traditional narrative structure. So like, what is the thing that's like holding me here? And a lot of the times it was the visuals, because the dialogue, so much of this dialogue felt like it was caught right in the middle of a conversation where I am just overhearing a couple of people talk. No details. The dialogue in this movie has zero details. Like so shy, so detail shy. And so it was a lot of the times visuals. And when you got Laura Dern up there, I'm happy. But like but there are moments in there where I'm just like, I don't need to see these rabbits again. I don't care about these rabbits. Like, bring in a greyhound. I'm tired of these rabbits.
Yeah, I didn't know until after the movie that that basically Lynch had made in 2002 like a 45-minute thing about the rabbits, and then he like used that in the movie. So, which I think is kind of interesting to me, like the idea of like kind of creating multiple things, then eventually you might reuse some of it. Because I'm sure a lot more people have seen Inland Empire than have seen like the full 45 minutes of the rabbits thing.
Mm-hmm. Generally, I would say Inland Empire is a movie worth watching due to the fact that it is an artist choosing to say to present something with confidence. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think at any moment throughout this movie I could see, like, in the creative process where David Lynch is like, oh, I don't know, should I put this dancing sequence with all these like imaginary women or real women that just showed up? I don't know. No, he did it with confidence, and it like plays well. Mm-hmm. It almost doesn't even feel like it doesn't just suddenly become a musical as much as it suddenly becomes a more dreamy state, a state of extraordinary emotion. And I really like that.
Yeah, I really did like the scene where all the women are dancing. I did kind of want more of that, and you do kind of get a little bit more of that in the end credits, which I really liked. But yeah, I feel like if I want a movie with more singing and dancing, I should watch a musical.
You'd watch Emilia Perez.
Oh God, Emilia Perez. It is so funny that like we recorded an episode about that a while back, and it's only gotten worse. It's gotten so much worse, and who knows what we probably haven't even reached the bottom yet.
Oh, I got so many thoughts about that chode of a movie, but I don't. All I could say right now is the Hollywood seems to turn on you quick.
Yep.
Quick. Which actually I feel like that is kind of a big theme in Inland Empire, about like Hollywood and how treacherous it is. How it's really just this like centrifuge for like taking people and separating maybe the soul or maybe the true quintessence of themselves removing that and separating the body, the look, or the kind of like sentimentality that can be attached to that, and just moving on with that pure aesthetic presentation. And I feel like that is throughout this movie.
Yeah. You know, the Laura Dern and Justin Theroux's characters, they find out that there's this curse around this movie that the leads were murdered. And then they just keep making the movie. And then, you know.
Well, you do know that, like, this podcast is, you know, it's based on a manuscript that I found at the bottom of the Harold Washington Library, like, archival section.
Are you saying that this podcast episode is cursed?
You know, back in Mesopotamia, yeah, like 2 people, a brunette and a blonde, they made the first podcast ever, and they both died.
Oh my god. What are we gonna do? Should we keep making the podcast or should we stop?
Well, look, I'm not the blonde in Inland Empire, you know. I am the sexy, tall, leather jacket wearing, you know, hairline receding man in Inland Empire. So,
well, I got bad news for you. I'm a lesbian, so the only person I'm gonna be sleeping with is a woman. So
one of the things that I feel like is really representative of that kind of Hollywood, like, chews you up and spits you out type thing, is how the romance within, well, I don't even remember the character's name, Justin and Laura. Mm-hmm. Like, neither one of them give a shit about each other in any sort of romantic sense, or at least in my estimation. There was never anything saucy in the, like, character's reality. It was only ever the characters around them, and literally the industry with the tabloid, or, you know, this reality TV show that was all about, like, well, you're gonna fuck, ain't you? You're gonna get sweaty, dirty, and saucy together, right?
Yeah, it did kind of seem like, well, I think part of it was like them filming scenes together where their characters are getting closer and their characters are, you know, trying to talk about having sex without talking about having sex. Because that started to bleed into reality, I think that was an aspect of it. I also feel like what you say of, like, everyone talking about whether it's going to happen, like, you know, that scene where Laura Dern's husband is like, you know, she is bound. Like, if you do something about this, then actions have consequences. And they certainly will in this case. And Laura Dern's character is just eavesdropping on it.
And he was just like, I don't fuck. Why are you telling me this? And, like, even before that, there's a moment after the, like, show where, like, his manager or, like, some other people, his entourage, you know, Turtle is like, oh, well, if you're like, you can't get in with this one, you can't have a... And it almost feels like everyone around them wants them together. Uh-huh. For what reason, I don't know. Yeah. But you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the way the tabloids and press dealt with Britney Spears. Mm-hmm. I went back to see a couple of, like, clips of Britney Spears as a young lady, and she would get asked questions about, like, does she have implants? Is she gonna fuck Justin Timberlake? Is she a virgin? Like, all of these fucked up questions. So weird, so odd. And, like, it reminded me of that. It reminded me of this kind of, like, external pressure that we see it now with people having, like, parasocial relationships and fandoms, where they just want random ass people, real human beings, being together. And I think at the time, maybe it was commentary about how Hollywood forces people into that. But now in 2025, I could say that I have seen many just like content creators, influencer types have to like do press releases to be like, I am not dating this person. I am not dating Miles Morales. I am engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it is interesting to like think about how much actual desire is there between Laura Dern and Justin Theroux's characters.
I would say zero. I
think there's a little bit more than that, but yeah, because we don't get a scene of Laura Dern like talking to her friends about like, I don't know what to do by Justin Theroux, because as you say, the movie often like starts kind of like in the middle of a conversation. It's hard to like feel like we know context, and I think that's kind of on purpose. That especially because as the last 2/3 of the movie feels more like a dream, it kind of creates this feeling that
Biggie Smalls, Laura Dern. It was all a dream.
Absolutely, yeah. We get so many Laura Derns that eventually it's just like, oh, I'm Laura Dern 69, and I'm gonna have sex with Justin Theroux because that's what
fully
I'm
under
do.
the covers. Missionary sex with Justin Theroux.
Justin Theroux being like, you talk too much, and then she just starts talking about, oh, yesterday, except it was tomorrow when I got the groceries. Yeah. So honestly, yeah. I'm sure Laura Dern wanted to start singing "Desire" by U2. Desire. If she did that, you'd be like, I see the desire right there.
I just don't think there was any real like on-screen chemistry with these two characters. I think the movie characters that they were playing did have some, but it was written to be that way.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I guess the thing is, like, if you were told that the movie you're creating has a curse and you're playing a romantic character in it, if you're continuing in the movie, you're basically taking a fuck it to the whole thing. And at that point, Laura Dern's husband is not very attractive. I mean, of course, I'm saying this as a lesbian, but to me, he doesn't look handsome at all. And so, I'm sure Laura Dern's character was just like, you know what? Let's just get dinner. Let's just go to an Italian place tucked away and see what happens. And yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna be sex positive and say I think I'm pro Laura Dern's character having sex with Justin Theroux.
One of the other things I just want to, I mean, you're so brave. I just want to take a moment and say you're so brave for that.
Thank you.
Two hot people having sex, and you're okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
One of the other things that I just want to mention about this like sense that Hollywood just like destroys people is that there's this like secondary producer, kind of a slimy guy, the second slime to the head slime of Jeremy Irons, and he at a certain point like sits right behind Justin Theroux and Laura Dern, and he talks about how he has a landlord that's being a piece of shit. I mean, yeah, source. And like he talks about how he used to be hot shit. He used to carry his own weight, as he said. Now he's just old, and now he's just the second slime. And he eventually asks for money to Laura Dern, and Laura Dern gives the money. She's got the money too. Like, we know this. I mean, Laura Dern, if you're listening, yeah. And Justin eventually gives money too after he is kind of like stuck in this awkward situation. And this happens twice. The first time around, really weird. Shot seriously, almost kind of like, a tragic guy telling a story. But then it happens again with Justin Theroux walking by with some coffee, and he sees who's the actor again?
Yeah. So the actor is Harry Dean Stanton.
Right, Harry Dean Stanton. He is telling that he's doing the exact same grift to these like 3 crew members who all seem fairly young, and he just gets more money from just random people. So we know that this is a thing he does.
Yeah.
And my interpretation of that, especially after Justin and Laura's character like kind of share a little bit of a we need to do that too, like joke a little with each other. To me, that shows that there's like this type of guy, this type of person in Hollywood that reaches a hard ceiling for where they're gonna go, both in prestige and like power and like money, and kind of their only reconciliation to reaching that limit is to kind of be a little predatory. And of course we see it as taking some petty cash from people, but like we live in a post Harvey Weinstein world, and even before that, I wouldn't be surprised if those like main characters like would also just kind of just fuck around and not like speak up against like other sort of predatory, no matter how small, predatory injustices they see. And I think that's just kind of like another piece of commentary about Hollywood being a weird ass place.
Yeah. I really like Harry Dean Stanton in this. I love him in Paris, Texas. R.I.P. Another great who showed up in Twin Peaks: The Return. And yeah, I think another aspect of this is like he's one of the older characters in the movie, and he talks about how he used to be in this. He didn't used to need this, and it kind of like feels like this thing where it's like, oh, he's gotten older and he hasn't achieved the dream. Laura Dern is trying to achieve this dream. This is like a possible future for her. Like, what if she's just sitting around on sets for the rest of her life, like, and eventually has to like beg for money from other people. But yeah, like I feel like Laura Dern's character, like you kind of are introduced to her as like this really rich person who lives in a mansion who doesn't really want to talk to her neighbor. And in fairness, this is a really weird neighbor she meets, Grace Zabriskie mode. But yeah, like I think part of this thing, the thing where because we don't really get to know the characters too well, like she is like complicit in the morass of Hollywood,
especially being like attached to this like apparently very powerful just dude, like her husband.
Yeah.
Whatever he does, I guess he's a mobster or a producer or a lawyer. I mean, what's the difference? But like,
yeah. I mean, like that scene you reference where like they're talking to Justin Theroux about like you can't bang this one. They're like, yeah, her husband is really powerful. Like you don't even want to see what he can do. So the fact that they know that, the fact that Grace Zabriskie is like, is your husband involved? And then she's like, no. And then you can see on Grace Zabriskie's face, she's like, I think he is involved. So yeah, a lot going on in this movie.
So like, I want to ask you something. You have more experience with David Lynch. As I was watching this, I had something that was popping in and out, which was, is there any subtext here? Or is everything that I'm watching fully just the text? When you were watching this, like, what is there any substance? Is there any subtext?
Is there the substance in this movie? Is Demi Moore secretly in this movie? Should Laura Dern take the substance and then have someone else be her for a week? Yes.
Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, I do wonder who would be the Sydney Sweeney to Laura Derns Demi Moore in 2006. Maybe it would be Britney
It would be
Spears.
Britney Spears. Yeah. Oh damn, it would.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, so the Marcy and AP edit of this movie, Britney Spears is taking the substance, and Justin Theroux's like, "Whoa, what happened to you?" And she's like, "Oh, are you making fun of me or something? Get ready. Are you ready for the scene or what?" And then Jeremy Irons doesn't even notice. He just sees a blonde woman. Henry Dean Stanton's like, "Did I get money from you yet?"
He's like, "Do you have a quarter? My meter's gonna run out."
But yeah, I think you're someone who is definitely, you're always looking for themes. You're always looking for subtext. I often just trust that will come to me after I watch the movie. I think with this, I was like, obviously I saw the Hollywood metaphor. I think there's definitely a lot in this movie about like what it's like she gets eaten and spit up by Hollywood, and by the end of it, she dies, but then you see that actually that was part of the movie within the movie, and she's actually alive. But at that scene, I thought, okay, maybe we're finally back to reality. But no, like she is like so like off the rocker at that point that like she just like she walks off set and she just keeps walking, and pretty soon you're back into the Russian roulette of weird things happening. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the subtext to this movie is beyond what we've already talked about.
I think it's all full text.
Uh-huh.
I like there's something wrong with that, right? Like honestly, like I'm okay. Like yeah, it doesn't feel like there's anything but the text. Like there's nothing below that. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck David Lynch, he's probably up there like up in heaven sucking on some titties. And like I'm sure he would be like, I don't care what you think, AP. Just have a good time.
Yeah. I think he probably would too. I think I plan on eventually rewatching this movie when I'm blitzed out of my mind, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was like, there's so much subtext here. I can't believe we missed it my first time. But that's the beautiful thing about Lynch and movies in general is you don't have to like have this grand analysis of a movie you watch the first time you watch it. It's very beautiful that we can come back to it, and we can rewatch that scene where Laura Dern kisses a woman.
Gay.
I mean, I know I'll be watching that scene again. I wish I would have gone on longer.
That came and went so quick. Like I wasn't expecting like that level of like homosexuality, because like there was moments throughout it that were like, especially with the like gaggle of like imaginary women. I don't know if they're real or not.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm real or not. So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I like there was a moment where like they're all kind of like coquettishly like nabbing at each other, which is like fun, right? That's fun to see before the dance sequence. But when I saw that kiss, I thought, okay, this is a 2001 A Space Odyssey ass like ending here. But also, who did she kiss? Who is that woman? Something about this movie that like was pure kryptonite to like my cerebellum is all of these faces look the exact
Yeah, I had that problem too. Like a lot of the white guys look the same, and then I'm trying to figure out like, wait, are there multiple like brunette women, or is there just one? What's going on here? And I think there are actually in some cases like it's the same actor playing different characters. I mean, other than these two obvious ones, Dern and Theroux, there are other cases of that too.
So I'm happy that I wasn't the only one, because like I don't know if that was the same woman that like started in the beginning.
It was, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, look, I connected the dots there.
Yeah.
In real time, I was just like, who is this?
I meant that like looking at the credits did help me a bit there, but yeah.
Inland Empire, like I feel like I've said what I needed to
Uh-huh.
say about this movie. I guess there's only one last thing I want to mention here, which is like violence. You know, this podcast is a podcast about. It's a podcast for lovers, not for anybody that wants to go out and commit violence.
Unless it's against the CEO.
Unless it's Adam Driver punching me in the chest as he calls me daddy. And he throughout this there's multiple times where like women are like hit or battered or stabbed, and a man gets shot. There's also there's just like real understandable like procedural violence. Like there's like your mind grasps that it's representative of violence, but it's never graphic. And in fact, I would say it's silly. Like there was a moment where Southern working class Laura Dern with her maybe same husband as before. I don't know. That man looked the same to me as every other man except Justin Theroux, and Jeremy Irons
And Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah. And like there's a scene where them two are like fighting, and he hits her and she falls down, and this is repeated 3 times, but each of those times she like hits like a roar, like she like roars. And then like the husband like hits her with a pow. Like it's almost like a silly, like it's silly. It feels silly. It doesn't feel graphic.
Yeah, so there's like violence against women in every David Lynch thing that I've seen, from Twin Peaks, Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway. I can't remember if there was in Dune. Maybe I need to rewatch that. But yeah, so I definitely wasn't surprised when I saw the violence here. I didn't, what you said sounds a lot like a comic book violence.
Yeah.
I didn't really notice that as much, but yeah, I remember like, you have the scene where the brunette woman is talking to like the sweatiest cop you've ever seen. And, a real slab of meat. And she's like, I'm going to kill someone. And he's like, who? And then she's like, I don't know who, but I have the screwdriver in my chest and I'm going to use it to kill him. And then that was like a little bit creepy. And then like the scene where like the brunette stabs Laura Dern with a screwdriver. Yeah, it's like you don't see a ton of blood, but you do see like the blood on the street. And that's a little bit creepy too, but yeah. It definitely didn't feel like hyper realistic.
Yeah, in like, maybe we go back to Emilia Perez too much, but there's a moment where Emilia Perez is like accosting Selena Gomez's character. Forget her name. Absolutely forgot her name.
Yeah.
But she at a certain point just like grabs her and shakes Selena Gomez a little bit. And not to be too like that is closer to what a lot of people have felt. And in fact might be more indicative of real common violence women go through than getting stabbed with a screwdriver or like, these other, as you said, comic booky things. And I just bring it up to say I like the deliverance of this like violence just because it's there enough to tell the story, but it's not there enough to kind of just like make your heart break. And I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, like in the Twin Peaks pilot, everyone's crying about Laura Dern. Everyone's crying about Laura Palmer dying. And to an extent that eventually it does become funny. Like the fact that everyone is just crying. And I think Lynch is really good at kind of like that dichotomy of like it's both sad and it's funny at the same time, and like you never know how someone's going to react to it.
Mm-hmm. And like I want to talk about David Lynch just as a person for a little bit. And what you said right there feels entirely true to everything that I've seen. He just seems to be really focused on emotion. He says that he works a lot on instinct, which is just honestly another way of saying emotion. It's just like the immediate sensation that jumps. Yes. And I see that in a lot of this movie, where it doesn't have to be like a multi-layered, complex, 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional even, like what, way of providing a narrative. It can just be like, oh, this is La Llorona Laura Dern running at camera. I should just see this as like, oh, this is fucked up and she's having a difficult emotional state. And I really like that. I really like that. Yeah. I just like that he works at the position of emotion first, or as he would say it, an idea first. He always, in all these interviews, he always hit with the big idea is what matters, not even what the scripts.
Yeah, I do think the fact that Lynch is such an experimental filmmaker, the fact that people kind of knew going into like later Lynch works that there's going to be stuff that doesn't make sense. There's going to be stuff that like an entire episode could be a dream and that'd be normal. And I think that allows him to have some more freedom in what he makes, where he can just like go straight from the gut. Like he doesn't have to make a lot more cerebral sense. And I really appreciate that about him.
Yeah. Even to the point where like in some of these interviews that I saw, like he would be asked, what does it mean to be Lynchian? And he would say, I don't know.
And why would he? You know, what does it mean to be Marcian? I don't know. Someone might like think, oh, that's just, people do say all the time, like, oh, you know, if I write something, they're like, oh, that's such a Marcy thing. And it's like, you can't, with something like Lynch, you can't boil it down to its smaller parts and recreate it. People have tried so many times. And, you know, one of the things I wanted to talk about is like, what's the world going to look like without David Lynch? And I do think there are people who are influenced by him, like Jane Shumbrun, who like do a really good job of like making their own thing. So I think it is possible to have Lynchian elements without like being a complete like copy of Lynch.
And so much of I Saw the TV Glow, especially after seeing this, immediately jumps at us. Oh, there's shared DNA here.
Yeah.
You know, there's a last common universal ancestor, and that is David Lynch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I peeped a few Letterboxd reviews of that my friends did for Inland Empire, and one of them was like, yeah, this is a great double feature with Jane Shumbrun's first movie, We're All Going to the World's Fair, which I think makes sense. Those are both movies where they have this dreamlike logic, and like the second half of the movie is kind of on a different plane than the first half. So yeah, I think there are a lot of people who have tried to copy David Lynch and failed. You know, when he died, I saw a lot of people saying he's one of a kind. Like, you know, there's no one like him. We'll never have anyone like him again.
And there might truly not be, but that's also kind of okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's the type of thing where like 50 years from now, you know, we'll still be alive. I'm going to make sure of that. We'll be appreciating someone who we don't even know about now. And while Lynch is one of a kind, there are other one of a kinds. So I'm hopeful that we'll still see great artists making movies. That
I think not in a negative way, but I think we've lived in a post David Lynch world for minimum 20 years.
Wow, Twin Peaks: The Return Erasure.
I think so. Like, I've never seen Twin Peaks: The Erasure, and I'm not saying about his like work. I'm saying at the very minimum, 20 years ago, he had already plopped down his influence, and so many people took that and ran. One, as I was watching this, it like stir up a lot of different memories, and one of them being kind of like early YouTube, and how early YouTube is clearly deeply influenced by David Lynch. And let me be specific. Like, there was this like YouTube series that was happening in the 2010s, early 2010s, about Slender Man called Marble Hornets. Have you ever heard of it?
No, but this makes me think it connects even more to World's Fair now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because We're All Going to the World's Fair is about the internet. And Marble Hornets is just this kind of like slow burn, very atmospheric, handheld, digitally shot series that the creepiness was there. It was visible, but it wasn't gory, and it wasn't otherworldly in the way that Hellraiser is otherworldly. And I also think about like there was another like series that was popular called Hug Me, or Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Have you ever heard of this?
No, I feel like you're mining territory that I didn't even know existed, so I'm appreciating it.
Which is like this kind of like kids TV show, like Sesame Street, but all of it is kind of fucked up in some way. I watched it way back when, like 10 years ago. Like, but I wasn't impressed, but like I also didn't have to be impressed. It was just. But revisiting David Lynch and hearing his own words, I'm realizing he has definitely delivered this large sense of atmosphere, storytelling, and emotion that has been aped, repeated, copied, duplicated, and yeah, a lot of people probably have failed at it. I think one of the people that I would say has succeeded. Well, there's two people that I would say have succeeded on it. In another way of saying, like, yeah, we live in a post-David Lynch world already, is in video games. Hideo Kojima, the king. He's clearly very influenced by David Lynch in both his storytelling and the swings he takes. And another similar creative is Sam Lake, which have you ever heard of Sam Lake?
Is he the Alan Wake guy?
He wrote Alan Wake. He also worked on Alan Wake 2, which is a video game that I'm playing currently, which is about an FBI storyline, murder, definitely Twin Peaks inspired. And he also made a video game that I really like, Control, which is like this mid-century, like otherworldly bureau that holds together reality in some way. In all of this, like I see it in these other pieces of media. So I think we are living in a post David Lynch world already, even before his untimely passing. He should have lived to 180, but
yeah. I think on the one hand, I definitely agree that like his influence has, even before he died, like his influence has had such a wide impact. I think it still feels really sad to be without his soul in the world. He released his weather reports, and I think a lot of us were like thinking about the fact that he could make one more thing. Like Twin Peaks: The Return, a lot of it is about death. Like there's a lot of actors in it who actually died like in between filming and when it came out. And now David Lynch is like one more actor who's in it who is now dead. So revisiting that, it's going to be even more sad, but I'm looking forward to seeing seeing Lynch and so many others in that again. So yeah, I think we in some ways we have been in a post Lynch world for a while, but now we're in a post Lynch world. And yeah, we're gonna need like post rock Laura Dern to cheer us up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll take that every day of the week.
Yeah.
Twice on Sundays, 3 times on Saturdays.
Yeah, you're gonna get Laura Dern is gonna like crash Friday Night Lights, take the music and leave nothing.
No
else.
crumbs.
Yeah.
I've gained a huge appreciation for David Lynch and his work leading up to this. I do want to know that, like, you are a creative person yourself. You also love his work. Do you see an overlapping sense of influence that he had on you?
I think we're both horny. After I watched Lost Highway, I sent a voice memo to friend of the pod, Michelle, talking about how the overlap between David Lynch and Marcy is we both like boobs. Otherwise, I'm not sure. Like, I don't really see a lot of, I don't really do a lot of visual media. But like even in my writing, I don't really see too much Lynch there. I feel like, a lot of what I'm doing is kind of like queer romantic comedy. So I'm not sure. I think that'll be something I think about more as I continue. And because the thing is, like, you don't want to go into something being like, okay, now I'm going to make something really Lynchian because I know that'll work. So I feel like I haven't ever done that before, but I'm sure there's a little bit of David Lynch in there somewhere.
Interesting. Honestly, I thought you would have told me, yeah, there's X, Y, and Z that A, B, C. Yeah, and just because I'm realizing the gravity of the mind and creative influence that he has. And like, I'm not someone who gets influenced very much. I've always just kind of done my own thing twice over. But I don't know. I honestly did sit down to try to think about you and David Lynch, and I did struggle to figure it out, the connection. But I'm sure that there's something in there.
Yeah, I also think that there are connections where like Twin Peaks influenced Lost, and Lost was one of the first shows that I got really into. And I think Twin Peaks also influenced. I mean, there's like even in a Twin Peaks influence in Adventure Time. You might like, I don't know if Pendleton Ward or any of the others have like ever talked about that, but there has to be. And I named myself after an Adventure Time character. I have a Marceline tattoo, so I'm sure even if it's not direct, I'm sure there's DNA in there.
And from what I understand, like David Lynch is also like seemingly like has been for a long time pro-trans in some level, in some way.
Yeah,
maybe not in the like the most like academically sensed way, but in just kind of like, yeah, they're my people somehow, and they're gonna like connect deeply to my work.
Yeah, there's the Twin Peaks The Return scene where he says "fix your heart or die." Like that became something that a lot of people quoted after he died. A lot of trans people I know too. Like it feels really heartening to know that someone who's so talented, who people love so much, supported trans people so vocally. So yeah,
which is nice, like truly like nice. Like it seems like this man did a lot, and I that's kind of all I have to say about David Lynch and Inland Empire.
So it's time for Hopecast.
Hope.
Yeah, we definitely are we're gonna need a Hopecast theme song eventually, but don't worry about that. All right. why don't you start? You give the first Hopecast salvo.
So,
What's making you feel hopeful, especially in this dark, dark time we live in?
I'm just gonna give 2. I'm just gonna give it to him.
One more than you need to.
Look, like, if hope is like grapes in a bowl, you should be happy I'm only taking 2. And the first one is I got to ride a bicycle.
Yay!
For the first time since October, and I feel a confidence again that I hadn't felt in a long time. And I realize how much I miss it. I realize how much this like little machine that has 2 wheels and takes me from one place to another means to me. And I'm really happy about that.
Nice.
And the other thing is, a lot of travesty and storms have come to Chicago. People are getting snatched up by federal forces. Even at time of recording, the federal government is suing Chicago for its sanctuary policy, sanctuary city policy. And like seeing how Chicago responded to the threat of these people coming into our city and just snatching away our neighbors, it just, I don't know, it gave me this like deep sense of hope, of just knowing that this is the place I should be, and this is the place I will be.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I've also been really heartened. You know, the fact that the ICE agents will get on TV and they'll literally talk about the fact that, like, yeah, Chicago, they're really organized over there. We're having a lot of trouble. You know, it feels like an own goal by them to admit that. But like that just shows like how much organizing happens in Chicago. They think they can mess with us. They can't. So I +1 all of that. And
Chicago ain't nothing to fuck with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, my Hopecast, I think pretty similar. It's definitely been disheartening to see all the anti-trans executive orders come out, and especially the way that they're targeting trans kids. But I think I've just felt a lot of solidarity over the last couple weeks. I feel really privileged to have the community that I have, and you know, I've had people tell me that I can lean on them if I need to. And yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen this year. Like, it feels like things are just gonna get worse, but there are reasons to hope, and I think that there are more of us than there are of them, and I think we will win. Like, when we come out of this, we will look back and be like, yeah, that fucking sucked, and we won, because you cannot erase trans people. Trans people have always existed, and we will always exist, and I'm really thankful for that.
We know that. David Lynch knows that. Fucking the fabric of the universe knows that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're going to get more transness, more queerness, more AP riding the bicycle, because Dovewhether isn't going anywhere either.
We are here now and forever, and because of that, you can find us in
every single app that has a podcast,
including
Spotify, YouTube,
including yeah, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Apple TV, and
Roku.
Roku. You can find us in the Amazon Music service or whatever the fuck. I don't know, like boycott that shit, whatever. And yeah, you can find us on Instagram, Dovewhether, Blue Sky, Dovewhether. You get those links right there in the description. Click them.
Absolutely. Yeah, give us 5 stars. Tell your neighbor about us, knock on her door, her mansion, and be like, yeah, you should listen to Dovewhether. Also, you might die. Your marriage might be in danger. Yeah, if your neighbor is Laura Dern, call me.
Hug someone you love and be well.
Yep. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.